I want to make a little tutorial to talk about lighting and things you could do with lighting to uh, improve your scene. So first off, in later versions of Unreal, this modes menu that I have here can be found over here, right? There's going to be a little drop down. My version of Unreal is a little bit older, so just note that that is a thing. Okay, so first thing, I'm going to hold the right mouse button to kind of pan the camera around here. I'm going to hold both buttons to raise the camera up, and then hold the left button and kind of move back a little bit so you can see what's going on. So I'm going to come over here to what's called the World Outliner. I'm going to type in sphere. So there's a couple things inside here that say sphere. The one I'm looking for is the sphere reflection capture. So there's one over there. I don't need that for that scene anymore, so I'm going to drag this one over here. And what this is doing, if I hit F, it'll focus in on it. This creates a real-time dynamic cube map, all right? And so it's reflecting the environment. Let's select this second one, find out where that is. That one's over there in that other test map as well, which we don't need him over there, so we're going to drag him over here. All right, now this is going to help our materials by actually capturing the light. I'm going to come up to the right corner and do minimize, maximize, then hold both buttons to zoom out, right button to pan, both buttons to zoom out, right button to pan. And now I can grab this. I'm just going to move this down here to the other end of the Coliseum and then just lower it so it's about halfway in this scene, or actually just about where the first floor is. So now you can see these two guys have a radius. They do overlap a little bit, but what they're doing is they're capturing the scene to help with the lighting in the environment. Let's maybe raise them up just a little bit more. Okay. So they encompass the open courtyard. Now, when you have interior spaces, you'll want to take one of those and just find your modes up there, and you could type in sphere, and you could drag in a sphere reflection capture actor, and you could place them in your corridors. That's going to help with lighting as well and the way the materials are reacting. All right. So the thing is, if you look over here, I'm using right button to pan, both buttons to zoom in. You're just going to want to reduce the radius of that. You could probably even type in something like 500 to start, because you don't need it. You don't need the radius going all the way out into the environment, because it's just capturing what it can see. It stops capturing outside of the wall. All right, so a good placement of sphere capture actors is going to help. Another thing is if you come up to volume, find the light mass importance volume. I'm just going to hit F here to zoom out in all my views, at least my orthographic ones. Now I've already gone in and changed the shape of the light mass importance volume so that it encompasses my entire map. Hit F and zoom out. So that's where modes come into play, and again, in later versions you'll find it up here. If you go into geometry editing, you can, and this is very important, that you click in negative space where there's nothing and drag, and then you can grab those points. If you select the actor, click and drag the points, then you can it's very delicate working with this, which is, I know can be really frustrating. But if you make this volume encompass your environment, then it'll focus the lighting on that particular spot, okay? So let's just go back to place mode, right, which is the default. You will notice I have the second actor. This is the post-process volume. I also adjusted his shape to match. You could also just use the scale function to scale the shape of those volumes to encompass that area. All right, let's come back over here. So this is my scene. It's primarily lit by two lights. One, I'm going to come up here to World Outliner at the top and type in Sky, and there's a Skylight. And so if I click on that, you'll see here's my Skylight, here's its values in the details panel, and then there's also a directional. If I type in direct, you'll see light source, directional light. Now, it doesn't matter where either one of those are. Those are infinity lights. The Skylight casts lights from every single direction. The directional, think of that as the sun, but also don't worry about where that particular actor's placed. Like, you could take it and move it anywhere and it's not going to change your lighting. What is going to change the lighting is if you rotate it, all right? And that'll change it to kind of reflect time of day. And so you could turn off the angle snap. And see, now I've started rotating it. You can see how it's casting a shadow into my scene. All right. It looks like it's coming straight in. Why don't we get a little bit creative and have it come in at an angle? That'll be much more interesting. There we go. So now it's casting light at an angle into the scene. So some of you may notice as I'm going through this that I placed an extra set of corridors outside of my second store balcony. That's not required. You don't have to do it. When I did that, I took point lights and I placed point lights in there, and I placed those lights so that they're behind the columns so that the light was cast on the wall behind them, kind of silhouetting the framing. And you can adjust the radius on those as well as you place them. So, all right, but that is not necessary. So let's just take a look at the scene. I'm going to open this up. I'm going to just hit build, and that's going to build my geometry. It's going to build my lighting. And we'll see how this looks. And when it's complete, we'll take a look at it and see if maybe there's something we could do to boost the overall quality of it. So this, all right, so it exported out the lighting data. Now it's building the lighting. So this may take a little bit of time. So I think I'm going to pause it. All right, so my lighting build just finished up. After it first initially finishes, you're going to see all this weird blobby shapes. But then when you click in the environment, it'll go through and then it'll do a final process and bring out the full resolution light maps. All right. So you're seeing the light coming in. It's casting shadows. Those upper areas are really, really dark. Okay. So there's things we can do to brighten this up. And one thing is I'm going to come up here and I'm going to type direct. And I'm going to select this directional light source. So its intensity is 2.75. I'm going to increase that to 3.14. And I'm going to increase the indirect lighting intensity. If I just hover and drag, you'll see, there you go, indirect lighting intensity. I can type in a value of, I'm going to try 3. And then I'm going to go to the Skylight and select that. And I'm going to change its indirect lighting intensity to 3 as well. So let's save everything. And then we're going to build again. And this is kind of the process for how this works. All right, so I'm going to pause it while we build lighting, and then we'll see how that looks just by changing the intensity of my directional and upping the indirect lighting intensity on both of those lights. All right, lighting finished. Let's click inside the scene here to get all our light maps to refresh. You can see now that it is brighter, right? You can see more details here, right? And one way to look at how your lighting is change your option up here where it says lit, change it to lighting only. And then you'll be able to see just the lighting information, and that'll give you a sense of, are your textures too dark or is your lighting too dark, right? But you can see by going in there, now that I've boosted that indirect lighting bounce, there's a lot more light that is coming into the scene, right? And so it is definitely brighter. One additional thing you could do is on the Skylight, if you find the light rollout here for the Skylight, so let's just make sure, type in Skylight, and now we have the Skylight selected. It's light. I'm going to click this button here to show the advanced settings. And there's a lower hemisphere color, which means what would you like the light that's bouncing up to look like? And so if I take this and just increase this value a little bit, and maybe I'll even make it just a little bit brown because it's kind of earthy and brown here. So we'll put a little bit of light in there. And now we could go through, and let's go to our directional. Change the world outliner, type in direct so I can find it. Right, so it's directional light, and I'm going to increase its indirect lighting intensity to 5. And then make sure I save everything as I go. Save selected. And now I'm going to build lighting one last time to really see how much that boosts everything. And I'm going to pause it while it builds lighting. Alright, so lighting finished. Let's click in here and drag. And you can see as those light maps update, it's even more bright out here now. So I think it's looking pretty good. We can get some nice screenshots. It's definitely very bright. I don't quite know why this is happening as I move around, where it's making those top beams get lit as I move in. That's a little strange. I'll have to ask engineering about that. I haven't seen that before. All right, I put an extra. I took my my floor piece and I scaled it. The reason I did that, I just did that so that I could have extra geometry out here to block the light. If you don't want geometry to show up like this in game, you could go under, once you have it selected, there's a rollout called rendering, and you say actor hidden in game. That way when you hit G on your keyboard to go into game mode, it'll hide it, right? And then you won't see it. And because your lighting is baked, it won't change the lighting at all. All right, so that's a way to boost and improve the overall lighting quality of your scene. So there we go.